You mentioned the Uniqlo deal, or sorry, the On deal and the Uniqlo deal, and I'm fascinated by those two deals specifically because there aren't a lot of players who sign a max long-term deal with, I don't know, 2 years left in their career, 3 years, 4 years if we max it out. That normally doesn't happen. And it normally doesn't happen that you leave Nike and something better happens. It's normally like you go away from Nike and you're trying to salvage one more deal on the way out. Can you talk about kind of that moment in time where Uniqlo hits, where you take an equity position in On, and then all of a sudden, you know, I won't go through the numbers. You can Google them, but they're astonishing.
And so, I think it only could have happened to Roger, just because of his reputation and how global he was and how successful he was on the court and what his reputation was off the court. Because this all sort of went down when he was, first of all, he didn't. I said this before to someone recently. He didn't leave Nike. Nike kind of left him. It was, we were trying to re-sign and they chose not to re-sign. He would have stayed. That was,
is that true or is that just a good story?
No, it's true. I mean, I spent from 2017, the contract was ending in February of 2018, a 10-year deal. We started in 2008. I spent 1 year from the beginning of 17 all the way till when it ended, trying to renew it. Now, yes, I understand it's hard to decide to place a value on someone who's already branded, who's 36 years old. Most people don't play, past 30 or whatever it is. And so here he is at 36, but we had history and we did a lot of great things together. And so I show up on campus at Nike early January of 2017 to try to begin what is in essence a 13-month process to get a new deal. And I remember, and I knew that he hadn't won a Grand Slam for 4 years, or excuse me, he hadn't won a major. We got to be very careful because no one's won a Grand Slam since Rod Laver.
Since Rod Laver in 1969.
Right. So he hadn't won a major for 4 years. So I went up there and I said, listen, guys, we need to redo this contract in a way that rewards him for having the most Grand Slams at that point in history. And you guys, he's auditioned for you already. He's a wonderful guy. He's global. He can go all parts of the world and help sell Nike product. But he's into fashion, and it's not a fake. You see him at all these fashion shows. He's always in Paris and London. He's very close with Anna Wintour. He knows all the designers around the world. And he and Mirka genuinely love fashion. So let's come up with something. And I said, let's go after Stan Smith. Let's go after the Stan Smith silhouette and make a lifestyle shoe. So we actually did create the RF1. So, but, it was okay, great. And I remember meeting with a big group of people there. And so then I went back, and then 2 weeks later, he wins the Australian Open. So I'm like, wow, he's giving me the goods here.
They're going, oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's a game. You know how this plays, Andy. You're not just a player. You understand the business. So anyway, I'm like, this is great. This is going to be easy. And it wasn't. And we kept going and going. And then what does he do? He shows up in SW19 and he wins Wimbledon. So all of a sudden, here we go. I've got 2 on the books now. And it just, they were presenting us with stuff that I was just like, guys, come on. That's like 10 years ago. We gotta, let's do something bigger. And so it was a grind. And I was starting to get a little bit nervous, and a little bit, just a little bit unsure of myself because I'm like, this can't be that hard. And I remember we owned his logo. Everyone said they owned the logo. We owned the logo. They just had the right to hold it for 2 years post the termination or the end of the agreement. So they figured, okay, here's a 36-year-old guy. Let's not negotiate against ourselves. Let's, if he thinks he's worth something, let Godsick go out and find a deal. So anyway, I don't talk to anybody else because I figure I have to get this done. And so show up at the Australian Open, the deal's up in a month. And what does he do? He wins the Australian Open 2018. So we go from winning no majors to winning 3 while I need to negotiate. So he's giving me all the goods. I can't get it done. So literally the contract, I go up to campus on the last day of the contract. And at that point, I'll leave what happened in the meeting to what happened in the meeting. But I left Beaverton, went to the airport without a deal, super upset. I'm on a flight through Minneapolis back to Cleveland. I remember walking in the airport in Minneapolis, like just really like, I cannot believe this. I'm going to go down as the agent who could not renew. Not only the greatest guy, but the greatest tennis player in history. Most slams. I can't renew his deal.
And he won a bunch of majors recently. What a loser, Tony.
He gave me all that. So anyway, so I went out and I called him. I remember when I got back to Cleveland, I'm like, it's not, as you know, because I had called him from when I left the meeting, it's not going down. So let's go out to the marketplace. So I went out to the marketplace. Everybody was like, yeah, right. No, thank you. And I remember one brand said, he's already branded Nike. We're not interested. He had a headband on with a swoosh. And another company said, we would like to do it, but we got to wait till next year because this is the year of our founder and we don't want to dilute his. So anyway, it didn't go down. I'll never forget. I tried to get to meet Mr. Yanai, the founder of Uniqlo. And remember, Novak had been with Uniqlo. So they were already in tennis. And I couldn't get to Mr. Yanai. And Anna Wintour, who I owe a tremendous amount, besides being one of my favorite people in the world, she was actually, I remember having breakfast with her at the Mark Hotel in New York City in her table 21 in the far right corner. And I said, I need a favor. Do you know Mr. Yanai? I can't get to him.
Is this a real story?
I know him. This is a real story. You think I'm making up the table number at the Mark Hotel?
I don't know. Listen,
that'd be amazing.
I don't want you to let the truth get in the way of a good story, but this is
let
great.
Him finish,
yeah,
man.
Sorry. Go. You're on a heater. Let him cook.
You wanted it. I say this is the place for it. So anyway, so she sent a note, and then, I don't know, 12 hours later, I had a message back from the assistant of Mr. Yanai saying, Mr. Yanai understands you want to meet with him about Roger Federer. Can you come to Japan on this date and meet him for 30 minutes? So I call Roger. What do I do? He goes, you go to Japan and meet him for 30 minutes. Of course, So I went. And anyway, it was a great meeting, and I explained him the situation, and he knew what was going on. The first thing he asked me was, who else are you here to see in Japan? And I told him no one else. And so he said, we'll give you more time than 30 minutes. But then he asked a really good question, which is, are you here to use me? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, we had another athlete from Nike whose contract was over. They came down and, we made an offer and then Nike matched it. So are you here to do the same thing? And I said, well, if you sort of meet the terms of what Roger wants to do and the vision that we have and aren't concerned with him playing, for too much longer and we can do the fashion stuff, then it's up to you. So anyway, we ended up working together. We put an offer together. And as you know, a lot of these deals, Nike has the right to match, which is why they didn't want to go. I assume their strategy. And to this date, I still don't. You could do that with everybody else. I don't think Roger was the right athlete to do it with, just because there was 24 years of history and he's such a good guy. And I'd like to think that I was a good partner of theirs as well. So anyway, we got this deal together and then gave it to Nike, and they had sort of a certain amount of time to match, and a week or whatever it was. And they took the week to decide, but they were never going to match. The best part of the deal was they didn't make shoes, Uniqlo. So for them to match that deal, it was not only in length and obviously financially.
You could still sell one of the biggest targets as well as having that deal that Nike didn't match.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was hard for us, but we were super excited to go with Uniqlo. They had this vision. There's a guy, one of the senior creative directors at Uniqlo, had a great line. And I wish I had known this at the time. I might have used it with you. I mean, in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't have it because, everyone looks back like, are you upset with Nike? And we're like, no, we're happy with Nike, because if they didn't if they didn't behave this way, Roger would still be there and it would be different. But, and they probably still would have done a good job, but I'm not sure we'd be, having the Roger silhouette. But anyway, we can get there later. But he said, the guy from Uniqlo said, John Jay, Roger will retire from tennis, but he won't retire from life. And I was like, yes, they finally understand that there's life off the court with Roger. And I wasn't able to convince. And I get, Nike's got 750 plus athletes. They're all about the moment, the stage. So I get it. And so anyway, so that happened. And then I had gotten to know these On guys years before in 2016. And they would always ask, would there be ever a chance to do something with our homegrown favorite, because they're a Swiss brand, Roger Federer? And I would always laugh at them, like, no chance. He's going to be with Nike forever. Are you kidding me? There's Jordan, there's Kobe, there's all these incredible athletes, and he's going to be one of them. And then sure enough, in 2018, when this Uniqlo stuff, I met with the guys and I said, ask the question. And they're like, okay, can we do anything with Roger? I'm like, yes. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he doesn't have a shoe deal. He's going to sign with Uniqlo, walk out on court. And they were like, oh my gosh, we're too young. We don't have enough money. I said, don't worry about it. Let's do something different, something where he can grow with you. We can attack, the lifestyle shoe. We can develop a tennis shoe. That was right around COVID started coming, so they could start developing a shoe.
We've got our cash handled just recently with Uniqlo. We can be creative.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it was just again, going back, being Swiss. If this was a brand from a different country, and Olivier Bernard, who's the founder, he was a triathlete, a Swiss world champion triathlete. He and Roger hooked up right away and sort of got along, and then Casper Capetti and David Alleman and Martin and Mark, these guys, it worked. Everybody got along, and we figured out a way, and we came up with a very constructive and creative agreement, which Roger was equity based, but Roger, if they did well, then Roger was going to do well. And so we just were lucky that these guys executed. They had an amazing product, and the rest is history. But yeah, the Nike thing was hard for us, but in hindsight, not that hard.
Isn't it strange? Like, for our listeners, I can already see the commentary from, like, imagine the position from, I'm leaving Nike. I have Roger Federer, who's in form and winning again, right? And I'm the guy that couldn't deliver a deal to Roger, to now, outside of a pre-established, like a Jordan Brand thing, right? Outside of like 2 new deals at the finish line of a career, or, close to the finish line of a career, how stuff turns that quickly on like a 30-minute meeting. It's just absurd to me. Like, what has to happen? Well, you need a product like Roger. Honestly, it goes back to, you need a guy who's got a global reputation where no one was going to say, oh no, he's not a nice guy. Number one, he did. Being Swiss obviously helped. I have great partners. So as I'm putting this deal together, I've got great partners at Team 8, and obviously in Roger and Dirk Ziff and Ian McKinnon. We all put our heads together and said, okay, how do we make these deals sort of different? And how do we make it where everybody feels like they're winning here? We found a company in Uniqlo, Andy, that wasn't just, actually, they made tennis clothes for Kei Nishikori and Novak, but they were about, fashion lifewear. The tennis was like branding play for them at that point, right?
Exactly. They put the Uniqlo logo, and we didn't have a press release. Our press release was him walking out onto center court at Wimbledon, which I'll never forget. He practiced and warmed up that morning at Orangi, or on one of the side courts in Nike, and then walked out and people in the locker room were like, what the hell's going on here? He was nervous. I was like, I'll never forget, the pathway, but I walked past the royal box, and I went to the seats, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what did I do here? This is Mr. Nike. He's about to walk out. And so anyway, but these are all like, you live once, and it was great. It's
like Beyonce dropping an album in the middle of the night.
Right. Well, in a small way, in the way of sports or sports marketing. But then, look, the On thing was a Swiss brand, and they were just starting to come. So timing, we were really lucky. And I had gotten involved with them and invested in the company, in 2016. So I got to know these guys. So I had 2 years to suss these guys out and make sure good product. But I never was doing that knowing that Roger was going to ever be with them. And then one of our really good friends, one of my mentors, he had bought a piece of the company as well. And so he was helping me. I mean, the whole thing, just everything lined up. But I do believe, Andy, if you put in the hard work and you've got creative people around you and you operate as a team, these opportunities can present themselves. Maybe not to the tune of the success financially that Roger has reaped, but good things happen to good people. And if you've worked hard consistently, and I try to say this to other athletes and other sports and to tennis players that I've worked with over the years, or actually maybe not have worked with, but are with other people that have come to me and say, hey, would you sign? I said, look, give the time. What you put into the stuff off the court, you're going to get back. And if you don't, and you're really particular with your time and you're tough and you leave exactly when it says, oh, we're going to be here for 2 hours, and at 2 hours you leave, it's not going to work. And Roger spent 24 years with another brand over-delivering, and the reputation got out there, and I think that was part of the reason why we were able to get these two deals.
Well, Tony, don't you worry. On's going to work out for you someday. You're going to be fine. I have full confidence.
I appreciate it. Are you wearing on? We need to make sure you're wearing on, Andy. Come on.
Not yet. I think
we also don't have a shoe deal.
Yeah, I'm also not wearing shoes right now. Like I'm actually barefoot.
Right now. Please help.